Hey everybody, Mike Rosso here, Film Photography Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about 126 Instamatic photography. There are literally millions of Kodak and other brand Instamatic cameras out there in the world today. And these are cameras that take what's known as a 126 film cartridge. Here's the cartridge. Here in the U.S., most notably Kodak made cartridges, and the film is no longer made. So, yeah, thank you. John is behind the camera. Hey, John. Yeah. So what do you do the fact that film is no longer made? Because these cameras produce a square image, a very nice, nostalgic image through their vintage glass and mostly plastic lenses. Well, a company in Italy called Camera Hack has manufactured a 3D printed FakMatic. It's a 3D printed adapter that allows you to use 35 millimeter film in a 126 camera. Here it is. It's made in Italy by Camera Hack, and very soon the Film Photography Project online store is going to carry these here in the U.S. If you Google search FakMatic, FakMatic, some may call it FakeMatic, I understand, you will come right up to the Camera Hack site. You could also order from Claudio in Italy.
Super positive.
You find yourself a roll of 35 millimeter film, preferably 100 ISO film, but you can use 200 ISO. It's negative film, it'll be fine. You take your film, oh, by the way, this has to be done in the dark. This has to be done in the dark. So what I actually recommend is you go on eBay or, to a flea market. You find an expired roll of film. A roll of film you don't really care about. A roll of film you're not going to shoot. And you do it in daylight like I'm doing in daylight. And you do a test. This way you know what you're doing once you get into the dark. Because the worst thing to happen is the film sweats. This is a real physiological illness. If you're in the dark room or in film changing bag, you can get the film sweats. It's a sweaty, not so pleasant experience. Anyhow, so you take your 24 exposure, 100 ISO or 200 ISO, 24 exposure tops, 12 or 24. Don't go 36 exposure. It will not fit. Take your end of your film and you cut it. Take it apart. All of your film's going to go in this side. And this is your take-up side. This only goes in one way, which is round on the bottom. This doohickey with the nubs on top, because that snaps into your camera and that allows your camera to advance. So, first thing you do is you take your film. Once again, this is all done in the dark. You make the tiniest loop possible of the film. This has to happen in a black room or what's known as a film changing bag. A film changing bag is a black bag with two holes where you stick your hands in there and gives you room to work. There's also such thing as a film changing tent, and that is the same principle. You put your hands in there. There's the end. Now, with one hand, you don't want this to be unravel like a runaway train or a bad day. You want to hold this tight so this doesn't get away from you. Take your scissor, cut the end. Try not to cut yourself. Okay. Now, what to do? Well, the shiny side. I mean, I've been handling film so long, I don't think about these things, but the shiny side is your base, and this is your emulsion. And this is what has to face your camera so you can take your picture. This gets a little tricky, but once again, like anything you do, once you get used to it, it'll be just fine. And I'm sure you'll come up with your own method of doing this. This is just the way I do it. Okay, now it gets a little tricky. I usually take this, nicey nice. Put this in. Now there's like little, see that nub? See the lip? The plastic lip? Actually, this is going quite well. Boom, get that in there. Look at that. Look at that. Now I'm ready to put the top on. Here's the top. Right. This also has to go under a nub too. Like a plastic. Hey, look at that. Now, what I do, what I've learned, because this is 2 pieces or 3 pieces, you don't want this loose. We want this tight. So what I do is I put a piece of tape here, a piece of white or black preferred, of course, tape just to keep
it together.
Yeah, just to keep it together. Here is your loaded FakMatic with 35 millimeter film, and this applies to whether you're reloading 35 in the FakMatic or an old cartridge. But here's an actual cartridge of 126 film, and this is very important because it'll explain to you why are there problems sometimes loading 35 in. Because all has to do with sprockets. Look at the sprocket holes in 126 film. You see that? Those sprockets are where the camera kind of a little
Nub.
Yeah, a little nub comes out of the camera to advance it, and then once it hits that sprocket, it cocks the shutter so you can take your picture. Now, 35 millimeter film, as you can see, look at all those holes. So the camera is probably thinking. So 126 just pops in. As you can see, it's a little snug, but it works. Close your door. 126 cameras have a window back here because 126 cartridge film had numbers. That told you what exposure you were at. With the FakMatic adapter, there are no numbers. So you have to take a piece of black electrical or black light tight tape and make sure you tape up this window. Since we're talking about tape, it's also a good idea if you're shooting, especially outside, take the same tape and tape up your seams because the FakMatic adapter, the exterior is in 2 pieces, so you could easily get a light leak. FakMatic is in. Let's see if we could rock and roll this thing. It's working very well. So what you want to do is advance a few frames. Okay. And now we're ready to take a picture. 1, 2, 3. Aha. So you may say,
Oh, I'm ready to shoot.
no. You will need to cover your lens with your hand, shoot, and then advance because the framing is going to be off. If you just cocked the shutter, shot, all your frames would run into each other, and it would create. Actually, it'd be pretty cool, right, John?
Yeah, it could be.
Could be pretty cool. But if you like a standalone, your own frame, cock it, shoot. Even do it 3 times. Every camera will vary. Cock and shoot. So this is a 24 exposure roll. You'll probably get about 16 exposures out of a regular roll of film. Size. Let's take the FakMatic out of. You normally would not do this in the middle of a roll. Let's take it out. Oh, come on.
Stupid.
Oh, there we go. Let's try it in the Kodak Instamatic 133. There's only one way it can go. So, once again, you would load your FakMatic also in very dim light. If it's not dark, very dim light. That's in. No violence. Whoa. That's working really nice. So 2 cameras where we're having some luck. Now, there have been reports of cameras like the Kodak 100 Instamatic, the Kodak 104 Instamatic, where the FakMatic gets a little jammed up.
All is well.
And here it is. This is actually the classic.
And then we get
The first Kodak Instamatic camera. It's a great camera. It's got a glass lens, very well made. Let's see if the FakMatic will work with the Kodak 100 Instamatic. Okay, it's in. I'm not going to say it's going to work in every single camera. So you got a little jammed up. But it's jammed. I don't think it has anything to do with the FakMatic. I just think this camera's messed up.
It's all messed up.
All right, the FakMatic is back in the 133. This is working beautifully. There we go. We're out, I think. Okay, so you shot your whole roll of film. Now what? Exactly. Thank you, John. If you process your own film, then you're probably pretty familiar with what to do next. But if not, I mean, most people want to take the cartridge out and send it to their photo finisher. You don't want to do that. What you have to do, as John mentioned, back in the bag or back in the darkroom, take your FakMatic, take your piece of tape off, in the dark, of course. Look at that. Here's our roll of film now on the take-up spool. And all we need to do is simply, you're thinking, yeah, simply. Once you do this a few times, everything's going to be fine. You find the cartridge that you rolled from, put a piece of tape on it, like that. Take your film out of the FakMatic, put the film here. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. On the roll. There we go. And now back into the roll. And there's the end. Keep your tape on your spool if you like. Your FakMatic is you put it on your shelf or reload it for another day, for another adventure. And here's your roll of film that you could send to your photo finisher to have processed, scanned, or prints made. The FakMatic is not for everyone. If you're a dabbler, if you like to, a nice do-it-yourself project, this is great to get these Instamatic cameras working again. They make great pictures. You can see some pictures as I'm chatting, some pictures I have taken using the FakMatic. This is a very well manufactured item that allows you to use 35 millimeter film in the wonderful 126 cartridge cameras. My name is Mike Rosso. I host the Film Photography Podcast. Please do tune in, filmphotographypodcast.com. You can send me an email, michael@filmphotographyproject.com. Be happy to hear from you, and go out and shoot and have some fun. The FakMatic is a 3D printed FakMatic.
Oh, shit. It's a 3D printed like that.